Greetings. Welcome back to another live stream. Base batches is the topic of the day, and I'm with my man Shabs over here. Let me check on Lloyd if he's going to join us. But otherwise, how you doing, Shabs?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah,
Mm,
can't complain. Had a
yeah,
pretty good weekend, restful. So, yeah, it's been good. Your side?
nice. I've been pretty good. Been building, base batches. Something I want to submit, and I'm going to show a bit of what I'm trying to do. What
Yeah.
I've been working on later tonight, and it incorporates AI agents, of course. But I'm taking a different approach from
Okay.
the typical OpenClaw because OpenClaw is a bit tricky for me right now because I don't have a separate device.
Okay.
So, and running it on the clouds, I still struggled with Ocean Protocol without credit card things. I don't use credit cards, I just use debit cards, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna go and get credit cards now because I wanna do get $20 Ocean Protocol. But I
Okay.
found another way to do it. I can't quite remember, but there's other platforms that are offering it, but it just wasn't gelling for me, right? So I
Okay.
thought let me take another approach. So I'll show people like how you can do autonomous AI agents still
Yeah.
without having to rely so much on OpenClaw. So yeah, we'll
Okay.
talk about that in a bit. Yeah.
Nice. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. On your end, what are you building or are you going to share tonight? What's happening?
So tonight, what I've been doing is just playing around with a couple of the models.
Mhm.
The Opus 4.6 and then the Gemini um, 3.1 Pro, and then
Yeah.
the Codes 5.3 as well. I just found that using different models for different things and just learning and understanding how to route the models using
Mhm.
their strength um,
Yeah.
gives me a little bit more success, I guess. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, like uh, the Gemini 3.1 Pro is amazing at like obviously because of what they did with Nano Banana and they just built on that. So it's amazing when you
Yeah.
get it right and you just are able to describe what you want in terms of any designs and stuff like that, right? But the one
Mhm.
thing that I guess came out in like the papers, when they're doing the benchmarks and stuff, is the ARC AGI, which is the reasoning. Like
Mm.
it's really good at reasoning. Like it is
Wow.
crazy good. So that has become
Yeah.
my default, right? So like if I do research and I do any reasoning stuff, I
Yeah.
default to that, and then Codex becomes my debugging tool, and then Opus 4.6 is kind of what I build with. So I'd use,
Yeah.
yeah, code with Opus 4.6 inside of that. And that's kind of like what I'm doing at the moment. So it's been really interesting. It's
Nice.
really been
Let me play
interesting.
the disclaimer quickly and then we get straight into it. Yeah.
Get into it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Today's conversation is for information and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial, technical, or legal advice. The views expressed are our own and do not represent Base, Coinbase, or any affiliated platforms.
okay. Right. So yeah, I think you'll need to expand on that. So if later on tonight you can show us how to use Gemini 3.1. I don't know where you're using it,
Yeah.
but I discovered it's there on on GitHub Copilot Pro. So it does
Yeah.
come up on my VS Code. I haven't really used it much there, but I tried it in AI Studio, and I couldn't quite figure out, what they've done differently. It was just writing code, and it wasn't giving me an app in AI
Oh,
Studio,
okay.
right? Yeah. So,
Okay.
but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so tonight we just want to touch base on base batches, right? So I'm just gonna open the website just for the benefit of those who were not here on the last call. When did we discuss base batches? Was it on
It was
last
last week
Tuesday or
Tuesday.
was it
Yeah,
last
it
week
was last
Tuesday?
week Tuesday. Office hour, we kind of went again through the agents, open
Yeah.
claw, and use cases. But mostly we covered base batches last week Tuesday.
Okay. All right. So just to share my screen again, and then we'll just sort of just talk through it, and then we can give people advice on what to build, and show them some quick tricks and all that. Um, yeah. Okay. So
Cool.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
There we
Okay.
go.
So yeah. So base batches, guys, it's designed for builders. It speaks for itself, designed for builders to help kickstart their businesses. Okay. So it doesn't matter what build stage you are at. You could have an existing app. You could be a student. You could be a startup. You could be an existing business. Doesn't matter where you are, but there are different tracks that can basically you can qualify in. And for most generic sort of like ideas or builds, you're gonna fit into the startup track, right? If you're not a student, okay. So you wanna fit into the startup track and you can submit, but there's some things you need to add some updates to your code. So if you have an existing app, for example, right, you would have to add some items of code, maybe add an update, maybe add AI agents or add something to do with base chain or whatever during the build cycle of this program, right? So you can't just bring an app and push it in there without making any improvements, right? So you gotta like make some improvements, add some
Yeah,
code, and
try and
in your
align.
application, you gotta talk about that. Sorry?
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I think it's important for people to actually read the requirements and try and align to exactly what base batches is looking for beyond
Yeah.
just you creating your own application.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me open it from this side because I was doing an application, so I think I'll be able to show people what that looks like. Okay. All right. So yeah, so startup, any stage of startup, right? If you're a team, even better. And yeah, pre-seed, yeah, that's one of the requirements. You shouldn't have raised any money more than 250K in funding. Okay, so that's very important. So you need to be pretty honest in your application about that as well, right? Um,
Mm.
and we're just going to take you through what the application page looks like. So I think last week when we spoke about it, the deadlines were these deadlines were the same, but it had a closing date like for submissions for like when was it? Was it for yesterday or the day before, Shabs?
Was
Was it
yesterday.
for like the
Or
22nd?
yesterday,
Or
23rd.
yeah, yesterday. Okay, 23rd.
Yeah.
So initially it had said that you have to submit your applications by the 23rd of April, which really gave sorry, February. What am I saying? April. I'm thinking of the student one. Yeah. So it had said you need to submit by the 23rd of February, right? Which really
Yeah.
gave most people very little time to do anything. So I think that was a mistake on that. It was a typo perhaps, but they fixed that. So now you can still submit any applications all the way through to the 9th of March. Okay. And
That's-
important to read the page. So when you go to the base batches and you click on the apply, it will take you to DevFolio, right? DevFolio
mm.
is the platform where you will submit your actual application. And it has all the details, okay? So 15 teams will receive 20K grant each. And that's a no strings attached, no equity transfer, right? And you get into an 8-week virtual program, which is a builder program called Incubase, and you will present a demo day. Those in the top spot will go to demo day in San Francisco. All expenses paid, trip, accommodation, flights, etc., will be covered for you. and a minimum of those 5 teams will get $50,000 investment from Base Ecosystem Fund. Okay, and the overall winner gets $75,000. Okay, so if you go to Base's Twitter account or X account, you will see winners from the previous year. So they've announced them. They just finished their builder program, I think about a week or two ago. And then they announced who all the winners are. So those have received their awards and etc. And their apps are actually doing pretty well. Okay. And then, yeah, then we're going to talk about the student track after this, right? Okay. So, um, what's different this year about the startup track, right, is there will be an interview, okay, and you will have, you know, a subject matter expert, I guess, that will discuss this application with you, and you are required to submit a light paper. Okay, so I think, so if you've ever been in the Web3 space, right? You remember white papers used to be a thing. So whenever
Yeah,
you launched a project, yeah, there was always like a white
the
paper,
white
and then there was a
paper.
short version. Yeah,
Mhm.
then there was a short version called a light paper, right? So the whole idea with base batches is they're not only just looking to fund you, but they're looking to help you launch a token, right? Which
Mm.
can be traded on the base app, right? Because that's how this ecosystem work, and that's how a lot of users are also interested in engaging with an apps token or a platform token, right? So it's
Mhm.
always like the app or the technology and the token. So part of that is they require that you should be open to this. I don't think it's a hard requirement, but it's one of the benefits. And that's where light papers sometimes come in, because they sort of give a breakdown of your app, your technology, and what
Mhm.
you are building. And it allows early investors as well. So venture capitalists that come and invest with Base, they are also looking out. So, so there will be VCs and angels, when you pitch in San Francisco, but some will still look at your project. So it's not only the people that are going to make the top five that should be doing things like a light paper, etc., or launching your own token. It's anybody that's participating in this. So, try and launch it towards the end, or when the announcements are being made, or if you're getting any traction. I mean, it's up to you. You have to look at the markets as well and get the assistance. But the base team will, if you're looking for advice, there's people within base that can help you with this as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the virtual program, obviously called Incubase, Lloyd spoke about it. Let's see if Lloyd has joined us. Wait a
Yeah.
second. Is not
Um,
here yet. Okay. All right.
we can't see. Just see if you can, if he's in the back. Um,
Yeah, I'm
this is on
looking
the
and
road.
I don't see him. No. Oh, yeah, yeah, he is. Oh, he doesn't have an icon. Lloyd. Oh,
Yeah, there he is.
Lloyd, are you
Today
with?
he today he left his avatar behind.
So I couldn't see that.
Yeah,
Mr. Lloyd, are you with? Where is Mr. Lloyd?
I think he's
Okay,
there
Lloyd is
because
here.
yeah, because there's three of us in here now.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. So maybe.
maybe
Okay, so
because he
maybe we
said
just
he's
need
on the
to
road. Maybe
check
it's
it.
noisy where he is, so
All
he
right.
can't respond. But yeah,
Okay.
he's online already.
No, no problem. Okay, so yeah, so there'll be a virtual, so for the top teams, there'll be a virtual incubate program, right? This is a program, that takes you through, how to sort of, formulate your product properly, position it in the market, take it to market, and so forth. So it's an educational program. It's a hands-on educational program. You have mentors that assist you through that over 8 weeks, and yeah, so that's what Incubase is all about. So Lloyd was going to speak a little bit on that, hopefully when he comes, but he did speak about it because he participated in one, I think a year ago. So yeah, we'll hear from him. And then of
Yeah,
course we mentioned the prices, 10K grant, um, and so forth, and up to 50K for the top 5 teams, 75K for the ultimate winner. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about the application, right? Okay, so all the information is over there. Let me go straight to the application, and then let's see what that looks like. Okay, so you need to sign up to Devfolio. Okay, sign up. I have my profile there, log in, and that's the only way you'll access the application. Okay, so when you are logged in, when you click on go to application, it will take you to the application page. Okay, and of course, you need to put some information about you, provide some links like your profile, etc., social media links, and your contact details. And then in the additional section, right, that's where most of the initial application is, at least the initial
Actually
intro, right?
provided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your company name, if you don't have a company, just put the name of your app if you prefer. Your website, your app, so if your app is deployed, you can use that if you don't have a website. But try and create, because I know sometimes if you're building mini apps, we don't create a landing page. We want users to get straight into the app, right? But maybe create an about section within, so you can still have your landing page being your app, but then within that somewhere, on a burger menu or whatever, or you can have an about section where you can then talk about, your app and what it's all about, and etc. So yeah, add your URL over there, and then so this could be the same. So this could be the demo. So you could put like a demo to your app, or you could create a video. So if say you've a click-through video, you could also have a click-through video over here. That would probably be a YouTube video if you'd like, where you click through your app and you've already got a link to the app or the prototype. So that's up to you. So I would think if you put the link of your app over here, then over here you could put a link to your demo video, right? A click through. So whoever will be reviewing these applications can find your stuff very easily. And then, describe what your company does, less than 50 words. This could be what your app does, right? So if you don't have a company, then what does your app do? Okay. And obviously this needs to be like your unique selling point. Okay. And what is your product? Oh, that's the value proposition. My bad, my bad. So this is just a description of what your app does. And this is the value proposition. So the unique selling point, like what's the key thing about your app, right? That's
Yeah.
different. And is it on chain? Well, if you've built on Base and you're obviously using the Base chain. So here you can talk about, list what elements of this are on chain. So are transactions on chain? Are you using Base Pay? Are you using Base account? But most importantly, what's happening on chain? You could use a Base account to sign in, but then your transactions are off chain. So you need to state that, yes, it's on chain. And you could just elaborate and say it's on testnet or it's on mainnet, right? So yeah, so you could sort of talk about largely about what's happening with the transactions. And then if it's got things like e-commerce or any payments, you can include that. I'm using Base Pay for payments or etc. And the transactions on Base Chain, and it's currently on mainnet or it's currently on testnet, etc. And then your ideal customer profile. This is like your users in your app, right? So who are your users? Okay, so if you're building for AI agents now, AI agents can be your users. Okay, so your ideal target market could be AI agents, or it could be AI agents and humans, or it could exclusively be humans. But if it's
Yeah.
humans, you can go further down and say, look, my app is for people aged 24 to 25 or whatever, or Gen Z, da da da, and
Yeah.
explain
Look,
what that means.
even when you look at the AI agents,
Sorry.
because I think where most people are getting more joy with agents
Mhm.
is if they focus on a niche and you kind of narrow it down. So you could look at AI agents and specify which specific industry or which specific focus that you want to target, because not all AI agents are going to be general. And my argument would also be like, if they're general, they're not going to be really that good. So they need to really be good at something. So you could go into a little bit more depth in there, just like you would looking for an ICP for your people. So I'm looking for males in Johannesburg between 20 to 30 that play soccer. You know, you could do the same for agents. I think it would be a good exercise for one to be able to do. It will help you out.
Definitely. Yeah. So I guess drill down on your scope in terms of like, who are you looking at? Who are you targeting? Try and not keep it generic, like I'm targeting everybody. Because everyone in the startup space or in the business space, they all know that's impossible. An app can't satisfy the whole world, right?
Agreed.
So you need to have like, your first, 10,000 users needs to be a specific audience. So yeah, try and drill down on that a bit. Okay, and then what category? So if your app is in more than one category, you can select more. Okay. But if also these are not applicable, you could just click other, right? And then maybe you could explain a bit of that in like your target audience, because that will also summarize, and every other section that talks about what your app is doing, like if it's on chain, if it's off chain, then perhaps you can elaborate more on those things in the descriptions. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you select other, try and elaborate in terms of what you're targeting. Okay. Where are you located? Obviously, this would be your city and country. Do you already have a token? So yeah, if you've already launched a token, then you add the token name, the contract address, perhaps even a link to like CoinGecko, wherever your token is trading. If not, then yeah, you just say not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So what part of your product uses Base? Okay. So this kind of came up earlier, right? Even though it was around on-chain.
On-chain,
So
yeah.
if say, for example, so on the on-chain side, you're obviously looking at transactions, right? So if your app is on-chain, that would be transactions, of course. So then you need to specify it's currently on mainnet or testnet, right? But if it's not on chain, but then you are using other elements, like maybe you're using the Base app, then just elaborate on this. Okay, so if you had selected off chain before, over here, then you'll say we're using the Base app to authenticate users. The Base account.
Authentication.
You're using the Base account, yeah, to authenticate users, right? Or you're using any other elements of Base. Yeah, so it could be just Base Pay for e-commerce, right? Even if maybe you've set up,
Or you
let's
could
say,
just
for
be using the
example,
wallet, that could also just be another element, you know.
yeah, so it could
But
be
any part
any
really.
element of Base.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because you could even, there are some people who do like those proof of attendance apps where it's sending a zero transactions just so it records, somebody attended an event or it's giving them a badge. So you could elaborate on such things about how you're using the Base, chain or the Base ecosystem or any of the tools that are available on Base. Okay. Yeah, founders. So if you are a solo founder, just put on your name and contact information. So I'll suggest your name, email. You can add Telegram or a mobile number as well with your country code, of course. And then if there's a couple of you, then list everybody, all your, co-founders or core team, right? So if there's a team of you, let's say there's 5 of you, then you list all those people who are the main core team. But I would suggest go with 2 or 3 who are the main people, because in a startup, so this is for the startup track, it might be different from the student. In a startup, you have a CEO, CIO, COO, or something like that. So try and list the top 3. So maybe the CEO and the technical person, like a chief information officer or the lead dev, etc. And then perhaps somebody else operational, right, or who does sales or business development. So try and stick to about 2 or 3. So you're not listing a team of 20 people here and overwhelming, so make
Yeah.
it make sense to the startup ecosystem. Yeah. Okay, so founders' backgrounds. So it's just a brief summary of what each founder does, right? What's your expertise? What's your interest? You're a vibe coder, you're a full stack developer. What's your specialty? You specialize in Python, or you're an AI person and machine learning. So these are the kind of stuff that you'll need to put. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, because I know some people in this dev space don't have, then add your GitHub profile,
GitHub,
okay?
yeah.
If you don't have LinkedIn, add your GitHub. If you don't have LinkedIn and GitHub, where would other people have profiles? If say
I don't
you're
know if
old
they'll
school, you've got
accept.
a Facebook.
I don't know if
If
they'll
you're
accept
Facebook,
your X account so that they can see you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think in the dev space, it's either you've got an X account, you've got a GitHub,
Yeah.
hardly LinkedIn. Um,
Mm,
yeah, maybe if you follow Base as well in Discord, maybe that as well.
mm.
But I would go
Yeah,
with
link
GitHub or
link a
X.
public profile. Yeah.
Yeah, GitHub
Um, I know
or X.
some developers have their own websites, right? Where they have their
Yeah,
own personal website. That's like a CV. You can also
yeah,
link that as well.
agreed.
This is just basic due diligence. So, so when you're in the startup space, you're gonna receive money, you have something hot. There's something called due diligence. They gotta know that they're giving money to somebody who is not, you know, transferring it to some illegal things. You know what I'm saying? So there's a bit of due diligence where this is the beginning of the process. They profile you because, yeah, there's all these money, transfer
Money laundering.
regulations, etc., AML, anti-money laundering, and all that kind of stuff, and all that, and funding, other nefarious activities. So they want to know that they are dealing with real human beings. Okay, so be honest as possible to make it easy for yourself. Should you have the hottest viral app? Um, I'm not sure what happens with anonymous builders, but this is for startups. So a startup can't be anonymous. So if you're an
No,
anonymous builder, I actually don't know if this applies to you, because you still need to go to demo day. You're going to be in front of people. You're going to, they're going to post about, you're going to do demo day. So this is for real people, right? And
yeah,
then if you're running a startup where maybe your startup is completely owned by agents, you still have to put your profile. So if your startup is like agent CEO, agent CIO, and it's like a fully autonomous business, you're going to have to talk about who made this, because they don't appear by themselves. So you have
yeah.
to put your details
Because
there. Okay.
you need a legal identity that Base can contract with, right? And right now,
Yeah,
agents
exactly.
just don't offer that.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, even if they did, somebody creates agents, right? And then they might spawn other agents, but there's always a human behind the scenes that initiated the stuff. So you
yeah,
have to be accountable. So yeah, so that's how this program works. It's for funding people, startups, projects, students, etc. But it's human and technology after. So yeah, and then you need to do a 1-minute video, right? Say from the founder, just a quick intro talking about what you're building. You can do like your typical selfie video. That's normally what people go for. But with that, it's a pitch. Okay. So this is not just like, hi, my name is Google and I'm this boring guy. And, yeah, give me your money. No, 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 no. Make it interesting. Go and check out like a lot of there's some platforms with intro
elevator
videos. You can
pitch.
Google that. What's that? Data pitch.
It's your elevator pitch,
Oh, elevator pitch.
and
Oh, okay,
you'll
okay.
find that a minute, yeah, you'll find that a minute is very short. It's actually
Yeah,
very, very short, but it will
yeah.
be enough for you to be able to introduce yourself, to have a breakdown of what your application is, like a brief um, 2 or 3 sentences of what your actual application is, and then, you know, what you aim to achieve. Just there, you
Yeah.
know,
Just a
who
quick
I am,
elevator pitch.
what
Yeah.
what we're building, and, you know,
Mhm.
exit. We hope you like it. You know,
Yeah.
very
It also
simple.
could be like one of those, yeah, it could also be like one of those click-throughs where you are quickly clicking through the app and there's a little screen on the corner, a little floating circle with your face on it. But try and make
Um,
this video first, right? So try and show your face, so they know they're dealing with people. But then if you're an anonymous person, then perhaps talk about you and then click through the app. So yeah, so I don't think there are really hardcore rules around this, but I think the general practice is like Shab said, it's an
they
elevator
want to
pitch,
see.
you know.
Yeah, it's
So
an
try and sell
element.
yourself. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this one, Shabs?
No, that's it. I think it's just, you know, if you really want to go in, do a little bit of research on YouTube. I think Y Combinator is pretty good at releasing different elevator pitch on YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
I think you can still access their content, I think, through Y Combinator School as well, without you actually getting access to everything. But they will be able to give you like a background on, you know, what it is that, you know, you need to do for an elevator pitch and stuff like that. But YouTube is probably the best in terms
Yeah.
of finding content on founders, finding content on elevator pitches. And if you just
Yes.
follow the top startups in Silicon Valley, you'll be able to find it. Even in SA, you'll be able to find some really great elevator pitches.
Yeah. And of course, try and upload this video and make sure it's unlisted and it's available on something like YouTube, a public streaming platform that
Yeah.
where the people reviewing this don't have to sign in and go through some crazy, verification process to be able to look at it. So YouTube is your best option. But then if you are using other platforms like what's that common platform for recording? I forget what it's called, but there's a common platform that records your screen and has a little circle on the corner where you can do your click-throughs. Um, yeah, so that sometimes has a link available uh, for viewing online, but sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you could even upload this to your Google Drive, but you make it public and you make it playable, viewable, so they don't download it. Okay, so just make sure, even on your X, you could post this on your X, for example, right? And just make it a public video and then you share the URL. But YouTube is probably your best option. Okay. And then who writes code for your team and handles all the technical stuff development? Okay, I know a lot of people are vibe coders now. So if say you are a solo founder, you don't have a technical person and you've been vibe coding, right? So you would put yourself, I'm the vibe coder and I use Gemini 3.1 or Claude, Claude Sonnet 4.6 or 4.5 or Claude Opus. So I actually read a tweet the other day that said, um, if you are a startup and you are vibe coding and you want to talk about, who's doing your code, he said, if you don't put Claude, you are gone. Nobody's going to look at you. I think what he was referring to is that it's probably the best, coding agent right now that most people have access to. But I don't know if Codex is any better, but it's been doing better than most. So yeah, but anyway, you can put the sort of like coding assistant that you're vibe coding with or you're using to vibe code. If you're using like some one-shot platforms, like let's say, for example, you're building mini apps, maybe you've used Nana where you just type in a prompt and then it builds the whole app for you. You can just put that, your app is vibe coded on Nana and excuse me, and if you get technical assistance, let's say from the base team or via Discord, you can talk about vibe coding on Nana, and I get technical assistance from the base Discord by raising, issues whenever I have problems. Because that's how a lot of people are actually running their businesses now. There's a lot of startup on the base Discord that are not they're not technical, but they've built apps, and we assist them on the Discord to solve some of those issues. So you could talk about that and talk about whoever is helping you deal with any technical issues at the moment. Okay. I think so. This doesn't cancel you out, guys. If you don't have a technical person, right, this program is also designed to bring the kind of support structures that you need, right? So you could have the most viral app, but maybe it doesn't have security. You don't have a team around you. So the whole program and the whole 8-week program, the Incubase, is also structured to help you find the right skills and find the right support, and the guidance on that. Okay. So don't fib, just be honest about where you are, so that should you be in the final apps that they find interesting, they can give you the right kind of support. Okay. So how long have you known each other? Okay, so if you're vibe coding, right, you could be vibe coding, this from last week, right? So, or you could start building today just for base batches, just say I'm a solo founder and, yeah, and I've been building this app since whenever, so there's no one that you're in partnership with. So you can just sort of like have just a one line of what your situation is. You understand? So I don't think here you have to force yourself to create a story that doesn't exist. Because sometimes we feel like when we fill in these forms, we are, we have to create some responses. But I think just keep it honest, talk about where you are. And how far is your thinking, your idea, right? So if you haven't built anything, right, then you have an idea. If you've gone to some platform and you've developed like a prototype, it could be a prototype that doesn't have all the functionality working, then you have a prototype. So if you've built it, like, let's say on Lovable, but it's not really functional, it's just the UI, it's just placeholders, then you have a prototype. If it's functional, it's on chain, people can actually log in and use it and play around, they can sign in with base account, they can do some transactions on testnet. You basically got an MVP, which could just have the basic features. But if it's like on mainnet now, right? It's on mainnet, you are ready to get a couple of users, you've set up the whole database, everything's working, you've set up security, you're authenticating users, you've set up like your base.dev to check the analytics, you've built the codes to track also like the transactions and the rewards on base. Then you are kind of like in beta. This is where perhaps you are now testing in the real life. You maybe have your first 10 users or your first 100 users, you're in beta. But I think when you don't have users yet, you could say still MVP. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, my phone went off over there. Let me shut it down. Anything to say on this stage, Shabs? Oh, Shabs fell out. Okay, wait, let me have a look. Ah, okay. Shabs, I've been talking to myself. I didn't know that you were out.
No. Something happened with my connection, and I'm the one that called you because I sent you a text, and I think you were busy explaining. So I thought, let me buzz you, and maybe, I can be let back in. Yeah.
All right. So I was just explaining about the stage of the project, right?
Development.
Which one they should select. So I was saying when you have an idea, if you've just done it on Lovable, if you have an idea, right? Maybe you've written a white paper and it's kind of technical. Maybe you can't build it, or you've tried vibe coding in somewhere. That could qualify for idea stage. But if you've got a prototype that people can click around and see, like you've built it on Lovable or somewhere else and people can actually play around with it, then that's a prototype. If you've got like something where people now, you've added all the base functionality, so it's using base chain, maybe you can sign in with a base account, you can actually use it, it's on testnet, and maybe you are using the basic features, like transactions on base testnet, and that's an MVP. And then if say you've now set up your backend, it's got a database, it's got a whole backend, you're authenticating users, it's on mainnet, and you've got your first 10 users or first 5 users that are using this on a consistent basis, then you have a beta app. And then of course, if now you are full out, you're running, it's been running for a while, or it's got consistent users, you got your first 100 users, etc., or more, and it's live, it's fully live, and we're tracking everything, then you probably have, or you're in a place where you've launched it, right? And if it's generating revenue, of course, you are making money out of this, then yeah, you select that. But I guess there could be a combination of this. You could be, let me see if you can click more than one. Okay.
Yeah,
So you could have an MVP and you're generating revenue. Okay. You could have a beta, but you've also launched it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or you could have a beta and you're generating revenue. So yeah, select whichever one applies. And maybe in part of this document where they say, okay, there's a section here that will ask you if you want to tell us more, you can speak about all those things. So anything that you couldn't clarify in your application, there's a section where you can tell and
Add a
show and
little bit
tell.
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Then of
Also,
course,
I
how
think
long have
if
you
it,
been working on this?
yeah, I think
Sorry,
if
go
it
ahead.
gets, I think if it gets too complicated for one to be able to explain which stage they're in, choose the simplest and straightforward one that you understand. I think Google
Yeah.
covered a really good summary of the different levels or sections in which you could be in. Just take it like that, and tick one. And then maybe later on, you'll be able to explain a little bit further when you get into the interview phase or you get into the virtual program or something like that. But yeah, just tick what applies for now, and then yeah, you can add a little bit more details later.
Yeah. And then questions like this, how long have you been working on your, thanks, Chaps, for that. How long have you been working on your app? This kind of stuff, be careful that it ties into things like this where you are in your stage in some cases, because obviously if you're running an app and it's launched and it's generating revenue, one would expect that you're spending like half of your time, on your startup, and not so much a weekend project, right? So those are just things to take into account, that some of these questions in the real world, they tie into each other. So when you're responding to this, try and think carefully. So don't try and, exaggerate or whatever. Try and be realistic with where you are, because when someone looks at these responses, then they can tell like, oh, okay, you kind of have an idea and you're spending, 100% of your time on just an idea. And you haven't built anything. That doesn't make sense, right? So yeah, so just try and be, honest with this. Remember, guys, this whole application is you pitching to investors. Whether you're a student, whether you are a startup, a tinkerer, or somebody who's just touching this for the first time, you are pitching investors, so they need to trust you with their money. So don't try and feed, don't try and exaggerate, don't try and paint a picture of what's not really there, because it will eventually show, right? In the application and along the journey. Okay. So try and stick to what's real, and what's, where your situation is and what your circumstances are. Okay. Then what part of your product is magic or impressive, right? Yeah. So try and find the one unique solution for your thing that it might be something that's obvious to some people. It might be something that's not so obvious, but yeah, try and elaborate on the magic, unique insights as
Google,
well.
when it comes to things like that, I'm a big believer in being an expert in what you're trying to do. If you're solving for something that you know intimately, that's an easy question to be able to answer. So if you're working on something, try and work on something that you are passionate about, something that you know a little bit more about. I think the secret sauce or what brings something to life in a very different and unique way is in your
Yeah.
knowledge and understanding of nuances, right?
Mm.
So if you're thinking of the little nuances of something, a topic that you understand very well, you should be able
Mhm.
to answer that pretty easily. And that also is your differentiator.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for that, Shabs. And I think what you've just said, Shabs, also speaks to this. What's your unique insight or advantage? So this is like, what's your market advantage? This could be something that you know, but it could be also something that you assume, because like now with a lot of AI agents, it's a new space, and it hasn't really found product market fit. A lot of these agents are not really working properly in the real world. They're not secure. They're not safe. And they're not really doing anything commercial. They're a solution that hasn't found a problem yet. So if you have an angle, then I guess this is where you can come in, because I think one of the
Also,
biggest challenge with agents is on a daily basis, most people can operate without agents. So it's not like it's a need, right? It would be nice for me to have agents automate my whole day, but how many things do I need to do in a day that I'm automating? Unless I'm working an 8 to 5, but then that's the owners of the company I work for, right? To do the automation. So yeah, so it's still a bit of a tricky space. So yeah, but just express yourself in a way that maybe you have a
also
light
Google,
bulb
just on
moment.
that,
Hmm.
I think maybe another way to think of agents is to think of them as assistants, right? So
Hmm.
if you watch Iron Man, you watch Tony Stark, and you watch Jarvis, right?
Mm,
So what's Jarvis's role, right? He's an
mm,
assistant, right? He's the
mm,
equivalent of what we're trying to achieve when it comes to agency. So
mm,
think of him as an assistant, right? If you
mm,
had an assistant today, what will that
yeah.
assistant be doing? And if that
Mhm.
assistant is doing something for you that you think could assist other people as well, then you have a use case. If you have
Yeah.
an assistant that is doing nothing out of the extraordinary, then maybe you don't have a use case. Or if you have an
Yeah.
assistant that is very that's focused on something very unique, you may not
Hmm.
have the size of the market, but it's niche enough that you can charge a premium for it, and you have a use case,
Yeah.
right? So think of them as assistants, right? What
Nice.
can you get an assistant do for you today? And I'm
Yeah.
such a big believer in, guys, build for your ecosystem, build for where you are first. Like, what are your
Hmm.
people, what are you struggling with at the moment, that if you solve, it could have an impact in terms of how people are looking at the same problems, but globally, right? I think
Yeah.
that's where you become an expert.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for that input. Okay. And then, of course, so part of this grants, it's important to understand that should you be a finalist, right, in the top five, even the top 15, in the top 15, you're going to get $10,000 each. That's just a grant from base, right? There's no equity requirements. There's no requirements for you to, give up anything to receive these grants, okay? Even if you're in the top five, you're going to get a $50,000 grant. And if you're the overall winner, you get a $75,000 grant. That's just a grant. That's money being given to you to help you get your startup to market and run it like a business, right? It does not tie you down to you launching a token or getting VC funding. That's up to you based on your business model. So you could have a high revenue generating business that does not need VCs or does not need to launch a crypto token or whatever. So yeah, so just be specific in here on what you're looking for so that when it comes to the process of you getting into the virtual builder program, the incubation, and the final, they know how to support you. Okay. Yeah. And then, yeah, if you have users and customers, of course, you can talk about them, but try and send proof, right? Because if you have users on chain, you can print out or put a link of the analytics that shows but also on base.dev. So if you've built like a mini app or whatever, and you are tracking those transactions via integrating builder codes, you can have analytics on base.dev. But there are so many other analytics tools. You can make one of your own that can track all your users in your app, and you make those available. So just try and showcase, how many users you have, how many customers, and have some proof. If you've got a dashboard, an admin dashboard or something to track all your users, then you can provide maybe a screenshot or a link to that, or, or somewhere that's available via link to access and show. Okay. And then just like revenue, if you're making revenue, we can check those as on-chain transactions, because ideally your app should be making revenue on base, but it's not necessarily that. So if you are collecting, card payments or whatever, then you can provide some details on this. I don't think you need to show like a whole proof, like your bank statement or whatever, but just, try and say, yes, I'm making revenue. If you have a
Just like
screenshot,
an
make it
estimate.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it easy for whoever is reviewing your application to understand, right? Yeah. And yeah, as I was saying earlier, there's things like June Analytics dashboards, right? Where you can put a link to your analytics dashboard, your smart contracts, and people can have a look at the transactions there and see, like, what sort of transactions are going in your app and volumes, etc. So you can include that. Why do you want to join Base Batches? This could be as simple as, I want to launch my startup or my idea, get funding, and become the next whatever millionaire on Base. Yeah, you're not really restricted. Just stick to what's driving you, really. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so this is the part I was saying, the anything else you want us to know. So if there's things that are like nuanced and are not covered in any of these questions, right? This is the part where you can talk about them. Like, your app could be off-chain. So you can explain it's an off-chain app. I just use Base App for authentication. I'm actually using credit cards, and people are paying credit cards for this and that. And how the app works. I don't have analytics or whatever. This is where you can sort of talk about those things to make it make sense. Okay. Because remember, a lot of people who are viewing this are looking at it from the Web3 blockchain base chain perspective, right? So they are looking to see, apps that are predominantly, and vertically, like crypto and Web3 apps, right? So if you are only using like the base chain or the base account for authentication, but then payments are not using base pays, they're using credit cards, then these are the kind of nuances then that you need to sort of elaborate on and make someone understand, so that it makes sense. Because they might feel like, hey, this can't be possible. How are you making money? But if you are making money off chain and you're using credit cards, things like that, this is what you could use the space for. I'm just giving an idea, but you could use the space for to elaborate on what exactly is going on with your app. Okay. Who referred you? In most cases, it could be no one. In some cases, for some of you,
No,
you
it's
might have got
us,
base patches
Google.
from
No, no,
base
no, no,
Southern
no.
Africa.
Who referred them? It's us. Base Southern
Yeah, so I was
Africa.
going to say, some of them, it could be, from base Southern Africa. So from these live streams, some of you guys could be, you just came across it on Twitter. You could just elaborate on that if you want, but it's not a big thing, I think. They just want to know, I guess, where you get your information from. Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, you submit the application. Now, I haven't submitted the application, but I think from the last year one, when you submit the application, then there is a proper, section where you can like fill in all your details, right? Add the videos of your startup, add the links, add the proper, value proposition. There's a whole other page, I believe, to fill out. If I remember, if it's the same as last year, there's a whole other lot of things to fill out. Okay. So I think on the next call, once I've submitted my application, we'll have a look at mine. Okay. And then we'll see you know,
Like,
how we can
yeah,
show you
what's
guys.
needed.
And I see that they've removed the link of all the. There was a link here where you could view other projects that have applied, right? Let me see if it's still there for this one. Okay, okay, perhaps not. See open hackathons. Okay, so maybe it's in a different place now. But there was a place where you could see anyone who submitted their application. Maybe I can only see that after I've submitted my application. I'm not sure, but there was
Mm,
a link here where you could
yeah, I remember
a link
that.
towards the end. Yeah. But yeah, so play around with Devfolio and see if you can look at other submissions, or you could go to last year's one. And I wonder if it's still on online. Okay. So yeah, so we've gone through the startup track. We've spent more time there, right?
Mm,
The student track is easier. Okay. So I think the startup track, because it's also closing pretty soon, startup track closing on the 9th of March, right?
mm,
So yeah, so we needed to elaborate on that because of the also the short timeline, right? The student track is slightly longer. You've got until the April 27th, okay? And I think Shebs, I think you made a point that this is ideal for because students who are doing this part-time. I think it was Lloyd, right?
yeah,
So if you're
yes,
part-time,
Lord.
you've got like a whole 61 days, so you've got a
Mm,
whole 2 months to complete this, right? So yeah, so for students, it's pretty much easier in terms of submitting, right? You could be a team, you could be solo, you could be from any college, universities, or you could be guys that just met online and you belong to different universities and you've got some ideas, you've got something that you want to build. Okay. So there are no real um, limitations, but you need to be a student, right? I'm not sure if you need to prove that you are a student, but I think this is probably going to be in the application. I haven't looked at the application. Let me see if I can click apply. Oh, so on the student track, you can see the projects that have applied. So this is the tab I was looking for.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you could go to these projects, for example. Um, I was just talking about the page that contains all the information. Okay, so after you fill in that initial page I was showing you guys, there's another application page where you want to link in like your videos, your screens. I think you can put up to 4 or 5 images and videos here. I think one video and up to 5 screenshots of your app. And then, there's a whole problem statement, as you can see over here, right? Where you talk about your project, the challenges you've run into. What else is there? Okay, I can't see the rest of that. Okay, let's check this one out. Okay, so some of them haven't really completed their applications, I think. Oh, there we go. So you can see. So the rest of the application requires one video and then some screenshots of your app. I think you can put up to 4 or 5, and then a proper problem statement there, and the challenges you ran into, and what else? Then you need to link like your GitHub and stuff like that. Yeah, so you link your GitHub. Yeah. And then if you feel like someone stole your idea, there's a place to report that. Okay. But yeah, hoping that's not going to be the case for anyone. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
where was I? I wanted to have a look at the student
You
track, the
wanted to see the
application.
student here.
Okay. Okay. Just the overview very quickly. What's outstanding about the student track is slightly different, right? So for the student track, okay, so students all over the world, teams can be any undergraduate students or can include undergraduate students. Um, and a single team can be from multiple universities or colleges. And then the top 5 teams for students, right, are the winners, right? They are sent to San Francisco, full expenses paid for demo day. So you go and pitch investors in San Francisco, right? So yeah, so if you're very there's enough time for you to get your passports, right? Because I think demo day will only happen towards the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, so keep that in mind, guys. If you want to be prepared for success, make sure you get a passport at least, right?
Yeah.
And be ready to travel later in the year. Okay. So what else is there in students track? Okay, so they say the application must be in by April 20. The deadline is the 27th, but you need to submit your application online in terms of on this page, right? This application tab here by the 20th of April, okay? And then it gives you another 7 days to polish up on that application. So the idea is that you just submit it, okay? Even if it's not finished, you are able to still go and edit it and finish it off, okay? And then, yeah, then 5 teams get chosen for demo day. It's not a hackathon, okay? So it doesn't matter. You can be a vibe coder. It doesn't matter, right? As long as you're a student and you've got some ideas, you can prototype it. It could be just your basic MVP. And yeah, then you can try and submit. But of course, guys, you need to share your GitHub. So when they say, they want to see that you're building something. So whatever you're building in this type of base batches hackathon, your stuff needs to go online. It needs to be on GitHub. You can share. So if you want your repo to be private, it can be private, but you provide a link. I think there might be a Discord along the way where you add, or there might be something where you add one of the representative from base onto your Discord, right? To be able to review your application if you're in the top, say the top 10 or whatever. So, but that will come up. You'll know about it when the time comes. Okay. And then then this talks about demo day. So there's a minimum of 3 teams will get $50,000 each. Okay. So the student track, there's 3 teams getting $50,000 each, and the overall winner gets $75,000. Okay. So I don't know if that means 4 teams are winning, or it means it means 4 teams are winning, right?
Sounds like
There's
4
75.
teams
Yeah. Okay. All right.
at 50 each, and then the overall winner at 75, which makes it 4.
Yeah. And then it's important to go and look at the code of conduct, guys, because these are like the rules. It talks about, your applicability. It talks about, plagiarism, reusing of other people's work. It talks about, basic things like, consent, if you're going to be recording something, a video, then, if it's your users or whatever, your audience, try and have consent. So people don't come around later and say, hey, you used my image for marketing and you didn't pay UN base, owe me money, so yeah. And then intellectual property, guys, you own all your intellectual property. Base will never copy your app. Even the people that are involved in this space, they're not going to copy your tech. So, if you want to keep it in a private repo, then just explain that in your application. And report any issues, violations, someone stole your code, etc., etc. There are consequences to this, right? Even yourself, if you clone, because nowadays we're vibe coding. If you clone something, you go to an open source repo, you clone something that say deals with AI agents, talk about it in your code. I cloned this repo, and then this is what I built. Because if you're a vibe coder, you don't necessarily have to build from scratch. You can clone an open source repo, okay? And then you can build something else on top of that. So just keep that in mind. And just keep that in mind that when, in some instances, when you clone something open source, you can't necessarily go and then create a version of this and say, I own the IP to this, because the original code is not yours.
It's not,
So so it's important to know, like, to educate yourself, because I see a lot of people take ideas that already exist and then they want to try and patent them. That might not really work, because there could be existing patents in other regions. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're in the blockchain space, and we're in a space that moves very quickly, especially now with AI and vibe coding, man. Everybody's taken from somewhere. So if you are really trying to have this IP angle and intellectual property, and the expense in licensing, investors look at those things. It's all about revenue. So you should be chasing revenue, not chasing spending money to get an IP before you even make revenue. So that's the mindset you must have. Your mindset
I think
should
it's
be
very hard
building
for
to make
one
money.
to. I think it's very hard for one to be able to build a business around IP at the moment, just knowing how
Very
fast
difficult.
like tech is moving.
Mhm.
It's not, we're not trying to discourage you to look at
Yeah.
IP and to protect your IP. That's not the point. The point is tech is moving so fast that you need to keep up with the market. Otherwise, you'll have the IP and you'll get left behind. So
Yeah.
maybe think of the speed to market rather than
Mm.
the IP, and then you
Yeah.
can circle back. There's always a way for you to be able to circle back and just say, okay, so
Yeah.
how do I protect my intellectual property? That's
Yeah.
also definitely a way to do it.
Yeah. And nowadays, because of the way AI is like they've been cannibalizing each other, So the Chinese guys will come and use Anthropic to build their own, models. ChatGPT and all these guys will come and use something else. They'll access, publicly available resources or data on the internet. They're going to train all the stuff on available. So somewhere along the way, there's always going to be problems about how to train AI. So what that means is that a lot of the ideas we have or that exist, the AI already knows about it. That's why you're able to vibe code an app. You can come up with the craziest ideas. You vibe code it, and then if you go and look at the repo, you'll find that 2 years ago in your repo it will tell you, on your GitHub, for example, to show you that the template is from 2 years ago. So I always find that interesting where I think I've got a new idea now in 2026. I go and vibe code it. I ask, you know, Lovable or whatever to make it. But then I go in and look and I see it's taken templates from 2 years ago, probably when they trained the AI. So it means whatever was available on the internet 2 years ago was used to train the AI that we're using now. So the templates are available online. So, don't get hung up on intellectual property when you're building in the blockchain or Web3 space. If you have a unique area for IP, then kudos for you, right? You can try and pursue that, but it comes with all its legal implications, right, and costs.
And
But
I also
your
think
mode
so.
is revenue, you know.
Yeah, Google. I also
Yeah,
think if you look back maybe 10 years ago, the conversation used to be, IP. Do you own the IP to what you're developing? And back
yeah,
then, if somebody changes or copies your code and changes, I think it was 30% of it, um,
yeah,
then your IP doesn't matter. So IP
yeah,
used to be the moat, 10 years ago, but
yeah,
like it's no longer the moat.
yeah,
You got to
yeah.
find
Now it's
something
open
else that
source.
is,
Yeah,
yeah,
now the
you
most
got to
successful
find
things are
something else
open
that's
source, right?
defensible, you know.
Mm,
Um, and I think that it's more important to understand um, how everything comes together,
yeah,
and be able to protect that, because I think it was on X the other day, somebody leaked, they said they leaked the prompt to all these major applications that we use, like your IDE
yeah,
applications like Cursor, your commercial LLMs like Anthropic, Claude, Opus, and so on. And then somebody came on there and they said, well, okay, so now you know the prompt, right? So you all know like what's happening in the prompt, but that's not really what differentiates them from you and me. So what's the point
yeah,
of me understanding and having those prompts when I don't know the logic behind how this ecosystem and the training data works? Right. So there's something
mhm,
else beyond just, surface level stuff. So, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is if we all use AI Studio, or we use Lovable, or we use, I don't know, Replit as our base to start, definitely our templates are going to be similar, when we start building on these applications. After that,
yeah,
what are you doing?
yeah.
What differentiates you? What do you know and understand about what you're doing that will differentiate you from the rest of the people? And I think that's more important.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Shabs. And then one final thing to note, right? So the application process for student track is the same, right? As the application form is the same, right? The last part is the robotics clan. Okay. So robotics part is being run by Virtuals. It's part of Base Batches. Virtuals is a platform for AI agents that's already on Base. Okay. And they are running a Virtuals track. So this is part of Base Batches. They are part of the funding in investors ecosystem. So they've got a price, they've got a set of their own investors, right? They use base chain. So there's a disclaimer around this over here. So you need to read this. So Coinbase is not, they don't own this track or make the decision on this track, right? It's just a virtual track, but they are affiliated to people from Base in the sense that they use the base chain. They are big builders in the base ecosystem. So this one's for robotics, right? So for anybody who is probably studying robotics or has an interest or has been building around this, then come build something. Integrate all the latest, technologies into the robotics. If you have a demo, then this is for you, okay? And I think you get to go to a robotics lab to build out your prototype. I think you have access to these, humanoid robots, and you can play around with them if you're in that space. So have a look at this one very clearly. I think Lloyd is our best guy for robotics because this is his forte.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also
But
like a demo day
you know
at
what's
Netflix.
interesting here, Google?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
find this space really interesting in the context of Africa and where we find ourselves, right? Because
yeah,
we may not have all the tools, right? But
mm,
we definitely have the pain points that will invite development from a robotics perspective, right? Because
yeah,
if you look at what's happening globally, actually, from a
mm,
software development perspective, a lot more people are moving away from software to hard tech. And
yeah,
Africa is just one of those areas where um, we have so many pain points that you might need to integrate into a physical um, product.
mm,
And that's where
yeah.
robotics is coming in. So you've got AI and a
I
physical
mean,
product, right?
yeah,
That's
we need
basically what we
automation.
need,
Yeah,
right?
we need basic things. We need like robots that can build freaking roads, bro. Like
You
that
know,
can
it's
collect our garbage. Like the most basic things,
the
right? Like
most basic,
autonomous. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, I've
And
seen
I
the
think this
autonomous
is
video in
where
China.
this
Hmm.
this, this could be an area where we actually lead from an opportunity perspective. Um,
Mm,
from talking to Lloyd, I think the last time I had a conversation with him, he might have
mhm,
mentioned that it's not just a fully fledged robot that you need to build, but you need to
mm,
have the software and have the concept from a virtual perspective to be able to show that this is where you're going in that direction. So maybe that's a
yeah, you
way
can
for one
demo
to
this
be able to
virtually.
think about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I know a lot of students. I mean, I've been at these hackathons. I've seen some students coming in with hardware. I think the last one I went to, the Geek Culture one, one of the guys that were some of the winners, they had this robotic system for checking, stock on shelves. So let's say supermarket shelves or whatever. Every time you
yeah.
remove a product, it's got a sensors that check out the stock count. And then you are able to reload this. So if you've got like in an industrial environment as well or in a warehouse, then you can have like a digital stock tracking system. And they wanted to integrate blockchain and all that. So yeah, so that falls into this category. So there's a lot
Absolutely.
of students in universities that are studying mechanical engineering, who kind of like it leans towards robotics. So yeah, I mean, there's also I come across students in the medical biosciences field that were looking to have some medical devices that are operated remotely, especially for like when you want to diagnose or do operations in rural areas. That falls under the robotics, okay? So yeah, so think broadly, guys. Whatever requires AI, automation could likely fit into this, okay? And of
Yeah.
course, $50,000 per team, and you get to be flown to San Francisco for demo day. And then, of course, you need clear articulation of your product, right? So I think in our next sessions, we'll dig deeper into this. So maybe on Thursday, we can dig deeper into robotics. We can have a look, see if there's anybody actually. I know I've come across, like I've mentioned, these university students that I've come across who are doing something to do with automation and robotics in the physical world. We can have you guys on base builder office hours. So if anybody's building in this area or has got ideas around this area, come through on Thursday, reach out to us on our socials, and then we can have you showcase whatever you're building and guide and help people guide this process. We can help you start, even if you submitted your application, you're looking to submit, we can come on to builder office hours and we'll help you through that. And this could be a teaching moment for other people. Okay. So yeah, so that's something to note for robotics as well. And then the one other thing I wanted to say, so for those that are just building software, right, in the student track and in the startup track, I know agents are the rage, okay? So if you're building around agents, so there's a Coinbase agent wallet, right? That you can look into. So they've got a repo there. They've got a whole documentation. Let me see. Coinbase agent wallet. So you could read the docs, introducing agentic wallets, okay? So if you're building around AI agents, okay, you can just search Coinbase agentic wallets and you can have a look at the documentation. And you can integrate this to your app. So I would suggest that if you whatever you're doing right now, okay, whatever you're building, try and see how you can integrate AI agents into it. If it's possible, okay, try and see. And if you integrate AI agents, they use a payment protocol called X402. Okay, so the agents wallet don't use like base, they don't use base accounts in the way that we use them, so they are using it in a different way. And the payment one is normally X402 for AI agents. So come and read this article, okay? Have a look at what you can integrate, if at all, okay? But what I'm trying to say is try and update your apps. So try and keep in tune and in line with the trends in the marketplace, with everything that's happening. So don't get stuck in the past, right? Because sometimes when you add these capabilities, because the world is moving towards an agentic economy, and that's what Base is currently mobilizing. That's what a lot of the space is mobilizing. That's where investors are looking at. Try and see if there's a way to incorporate, any automation using AI agents into whatever you're building. Okay. So yeah, so there's so you don't have to necessarily use this is an agent wallet, by the way, right? So if you don't want to use OpenClaw, for example, you could use Gemini. There is the Google ADK, but it's limited in terms of, so it's Google Agent Development Kit, right? So it's also a way where you can use Gemini for, some type of automations, automating some tasks and stuff like that. I'm not sure if this one, the way I built something where I use Google Agent Development Kit, where I'm using Gemini for the AI agents to make decisions, move around, right? But then I added the Coinbase agent wallet, right? And the skills. But then I realized some limitations, and then I added something else called BankerBot. So BankerBot is also BANKRBOT. It's also like an agent system. So it's been around for like over a year on Base, but they already have the infrastructure for wallets. They have an API key. You can create your own API key. They've got agent, documentation, etc., etc. So they've already built out this whole agent kit. So if you want to build something where it's got some autonomy, it can trade for you. Agents that trade. It can tweet. It can interact with other agents. Agent Kit is an alternative version to OpenClaw. and it's a tried and trusted version. So it already works. It's already very solid. So you could use BankerBot. Sorry, I said AgentKit. So you could use BankerBot because it's a very solid platform. So I've integrated something like that. And with that said, just to give you guys like sort of like an idea, I'm building a monopoly, an agentic monopoly, okay? But I'm also doing it as like, like kind of like you can look at it like TikTok. So where you can come in and watch agents, you fund them, and then they take action and then they tell you what they do. So every time they stop on any of these monopoly boards, they will make a purchase or they will make a transaction or they'll buy news on the markets and then they'll keep trading and then there will be like a leaderboard. So this runs 24/7. So as you see those agents, there's also a leaderboard, how much money they are investing. You can invest in them. So you can click on an agent. I can fund it. And then if it makes money, it will give me a payout, you know? So it runs 24/7. So it's kind of like an agent trade exchange. So this is what I'm building. So I'm more like, I kind of like this. I took this from somebody else that posted something similar, but it's built on Gemini. And then I've integrated BankerBot, I've integrated Coinbase developer platforms, Agent Wallet, and then I'm using those
Gugu,
things in different
which
ways.
Gemini
Yeah.
model are you using?
I'm just using the API key, so I don't know
Okay.
what version it's using. Yeah,
Ah,
but I think it's using it's probably using 3 or 2.5. No, 2.5 is
yeah.
been thinking. Yeah. So this is like, it's like TikTok, right? Where you can, whatever agent you're looking at, right? You can scroll and see the next agent. You can scroll and see which agents are doing what exactly, what actions are they taking, or you can look at the whole board and look at the whole monopoly board. So I'm still building this out. I'm thinking maybe I need to add properties where they can buy, but it's like monopoly for agents, right? And they continue to trade 24/7. Then you can come in, you buy properties here, as NFTs, you can give your money, the agent, your money, and then it trades for you. So if I'm lazy to trade, I just give it. I look at like what's his strategy, what's the win rate, 61%. Then I give it money, and then it spends all day or a couple of days trading. When I come back in a few days or whenever, it will tell me how much it's made, and then I can cash out. Yeah.
No,
So this is
this is
what I'm
very cool.
building.
This is very
Yeah. So
cool.
I thought,
I think,
because I couldn't come up with an idea for ages, and I saw something interesting. Someone had the original thing was different to this. It was just these little people running around, and I liked it. And I was like, okay, for me, I would want to play around with Monopoly. So these are the ideas, guys, you can build. Like you can go crazy with this stuff. So I just went with something that was ridiculous, but it turned out pretty okay. It's nice to watch. And yeah, I've also got a social media where the agents talk and they talk about like what they're doing. They buy news, they try and scam you, they try and survive, so they try not to die. So they can scam you, they can, shield whatever, sell you fake tokens or whatever. But the point is in their code, they're supposed to survive. They can beg for money. And then, yeah, there's this news section where the CEO, so I'm the CEO of this game. So I'm this guy in the center, right? This is me, yeah, the CEO. So I sell news to these agents, etc., etc. So they're constantly buying news to try and keep them alive and all that, or to try and give them the edge. Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'm building. I call it Monopolis. Okay. So yeah. So guys, you
no,
can do
that's
anything
really
crazy
cool,
with
man.
agents. Yeah, thanks, man. So
Yeah.
I'm just going with also a thing that seems hard to do, but actually I'm vibe coding this whole thing. So it's actually easy, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so if me as an old Matala can do this, I can imagine what the young guys can do, right? I'm sure you guys will like, kick butt, so to speak. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what's happening, guys. That's the possibilities. I didn't use OpenClaw for that agents I'm showing you guys. I just used oh my god, we've got an Avantis thing I didn't see here. Oh. Apologies, Avantis. I didn't see that was on. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I was saying I use Gemini Agent Kit. I cloned the repo. Number one, I cloned the repo, which was already it was already like a, not a game, little people running around a grid, a world, you know? And then I
Mhm.
cloned it and I created my own thing. And I had Monopoly in mind, you know, because it aligns very well with DeFi. So I've technically created an exchange for agents, and other people can come and invest, can buy agents, can spawn new agents. So you can literally do anything, guys. I wouldn't call that a game. It's not a game because you don't play, you watch, but it's a new thing, right? That's what agents give us. They give us new business models. So I wouldn't say it's a game because there's nothing to play there. You just watch.
Mhm.
It's the agents, okay? So it's kind of like you're watching agents do their thing, and then you go and you know, place bets, invest, whatever, and then they make money for you. So it's low risk investment for you, low participation, but that's where the future is going. So I'm sure you guys can build other crazy things, right? For base batches. So yeah, so feel free to, you know, uh, explore and see what you can do with the space. Okay.
Yeah. So I was saying to you when we started the call that Gemini 3.1 Pro was amazing
Hmm.
at deep
Yeah.
reasoning, right?
Hmm.
Um, Part of what you can do, right, is to take a really complex problem and give it to Gemini 3.1 Pro and let
Yeah.
Gemini like decompose that problem and find you a solution, because that's really what it's really good at. It's not something that is being talked a lot about in the media, but it's something
Hmm.
that is actually there, and Google is focusing more on the intelligent part of model development as opposed to
Yeah.
everybody else that is working on maybe just the coding element, maybe just capturing a certain part of the market, maybe it's like social media or whatever. These guys are really
Hmm.
focusing on intelligence. So in essence, what they
Yeah.
have is this model that you can give it any complex problem, right? And it can
Hmm.
go in there and find a novel solution for you. So the reason why I'm
Mm.
bringing this up is the exercise that you did is you saw a repo, you took it,
Yeah.
had different ideas about how you can repurpose that, and then you
Yeah.
built this thing, which is
Exactly.
Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
So imagine um, you having a specific problem, you putting certain matrix that you need to meet. Let's say this needs to be agentic, it needs to align with base and the base requirement. You need to add, let's say, a couple more things in terms of your environment and what you want to solve for in your space. And then you give all
Yeah.
of those elements to Google Gemini Pro just in an interface, right? You don't need to
Yeah.
go into, you can even give it to Gemini Pro in an IDE. So you can go to
Yeah.
VS Code and have all of those
Yeah.
things and just
Let me
choose
quickly
your
share
model.
VS Code. Let's show everybody what you're talking about in terms of where you find. Let me just
Yeah.
quickly open my VS Code, and then we'll
So
show you guys where you will find Gemini
wait,
Pro and all those tools. Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, this code
if
is
if you want
stretching
to
because, I mean,
try it
based off
out,
thing, it's the only one time of the year where you really. Uh-huh.
if you want to try it out for
Okay, can you
free,
see my screen?
anti-gravity gives you a certain amount of tokens that you can experiment with their models for free, and then they kick you out, right? But it's decent enough for you to be able to see the
Mm,
capability of a specific model. So you can go into anti-gravity as
yeah.
well. So there's um, VS Code.
Okay.
That's a paid version on VS Code,
So I'm
right?
on, yeah, I'm on VS. I'm in VS Code right now, right? And it's got like
Yes.
Opus, 4.6, which is the latest. Opus 4.5, Haiku. It's got Claude Sonnet 4, 4.5, and 4.62. It's Got Gemini
Yeah, so go
2.5
down to
Pro
the
Flash
Gemini
3.1. Yeah.
3.1
So you got
Pro.
Gemini 3.1, but of course, Gemini has made an announcement. They're having issues with their platform right now. I think it's because they're integrating anti-gravity into Gemini or into AI Studio. I'm not sure, but there's an integration happening and it's been giving problems. But yesterday,
Oh,
this was fine.
is this happening
Yeah.
this evening?
Yeah, I saw a post about it earlier today,
Oh, okay.
about these problems. Yeah, yesterday it was okay,
Yeah.
but I'm sure they'll resolve it. But otherwise, you can select in your VS Code, guys. So I'm using VS Code, GitHub Copilot, GitHub Copilot Pro. Okay, so if you wanna get a 30-day GitHub Copilot Pro 30-day trial. So go for a 30-day trial, okay? Because then it gives you enough time to build for base batches, right? So you click try now, and obviously you need to be signed up. So the thing is, if you've signed up for the Copilot Pro in the past, then you need to go and create a new Google account, okay? Create a new Google account, come back, sign up for Copilot Pro, you will need to add a debit card or credit card details. It's gotta have at least an equivalent of like 10 US dollars in it, okay? Or something like that. So it's gotta have a balance, because what they do is they freeze that balance for about, I don't know, 30 minutes to prove that you have money that you will pay in future. Then they unfreeze it. Okay. So they hold your balance. So if your card has got no money, you won't be able to try Copilot Pro. You could do this with a virtual card. I normally do this with virtual cards. You can do it with a bank card. And the trick is that after like maybe 30 days or whatever, or before 30 days, so maybe like after 29 days or 28 days, you go and you cancel in your billing, okay? So you go to your billing and you would cancel that. Okay, so it's over here. So I think it comes up over there. Oh, where is this thing now? Oh, there we go. Where is billing? Okay, I'm not seeing it, but there's something that says GitHub Copilot Pro billing once you've signed in. And then day 29, you cancel it and then you don't have to pay. They're not gonna charge you. If you don't cancel it, then they're gonna charge you $10 every month. Okay. So it's up to you. So I normally use the Copilot trial, you know. I've got multiple Google accounts because I built so many things at the same time, right? And if I was paying for all those, yeah, it would be costing me like quite a lot of
Yeah.
money to
It's
build and to use
exhausting.
all these AI technologies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, with this where we are right now, I think also if you have a student, if you have a student account, there's so many things you can get for free, right? If you have a student registration number, you can apply for a lot of these Gemini things for free. I'm not sure if Copilot gives, but you can look up. There are so many resources that you can get for free, right? And then in the instances where you can't get them for free, because sometimes you apply and then you have to wait for 1 week before they activate you. If you want to build something now, then set up something like VS GitHub Copilot Pro, integrate it into or link it to your VS Code. You link it over here. You go and sign up to the actual repo where you've signed up. The sign up button is over here. So when you're signed out, this little thing over here on the bottom right is going to tell you whether you're signed up or not. And then when you are using them, it's going to show you in the premium how much percentage you've used. But largely, if you're a heavy builder like I am sometimes, this will last you a month, okay, or about half a month. But you are able to build like a proper app using all these. So you can use these so you can use 4.5 Sonnet, 4.5 and 4.6 for generic coding and running all this code. Then you switch to GitHub Gemini, 3.1 or 3 to be able to add some beautiful graphics. Like if you want to add some beautiful graphics or you want to add the API keys and all that, or Gemini, you go and add your API key in your .env file, and yeah, and then you do the rest. So yeah, so I've added BankerBot here. I've added Coinbase agent wallet. So my agents can use either or, right? But right now I found, let me see. Let me see. I had a list of my wallets over here. Let me see if, okay, so this is what my agents can do. Okay. So I added BankerBot because I wanted to get that automation right. So BankerBot is very good with automating things, right? So I went and added, oh, this is mobile responsive. Okay, so this is something else. Yeah, but I went and added the BankerBot and it's able to, my agents can launch their own tokens. Okay, so what I showed you now on the Monopoly, they can launch a token, they can sell the token to other agents, they can tweet about it, they can make noise about it in the socials, other agents buy the tokens, they can make a profit, and then you can buy that your agents can buy that token as well. So they can do quite a lot. They can trade, they can stake, they can, have different DeFi strategies. So you can, invest in an agent that has the risk profile that you're looking for. Yeah. But ultimately, guys, what I'm building, I don't have the amazing builder development skills to be able to do this, but the technology helps me. So the vibe coding helps me. What I have a lot of is just a lot of ideas. I'm always trying new things. So if you're young, you're a student, or even a startup, guys, don't thinking is no longer building is no longer the problem, right? It's the thinking, is the ideas. So stay creative, stay searching the socials and seeing what other people are doing. Don't stay in a vacuum, stay interacting with people, read a lot, follow a lot of social media accounts. I follow like 3,000 odd, accounts, right? And they feed me so much information. I get a lot of my ideas from social media, from my feed, because I follow the right people as well, right? So that's where I get a lot of ideas. I see things, and then I go and then I try and build them, and then I add my own creativity or my own ideas, usually crazy ideas, and then I try and build that. And 9 out of 10 times, guys, the tools that we have, all these AI tools, can build the craziest ideas. Okay. So
Yeah.
go crazy for base batches, have no limits, build the craziest thing, but make it work, make it have utility in the real world, for either for AI agents or for humans or for both. It doesn't matter, but make it something that can be engaging. Okay. Yep. I think with that said, Shabs, any last words from you, because we've been here for a while.
Yeah. No, guys, like the technology is there. Like Google said, the technology is there. Just play around with it. Like I said at the beginning of the call, my focus at the moment is kind of around like different models routing. So what I mean is like I use different models for different things specifically. So your Opus 4.6 is really good at coding because a lot of people won't have access to Claude Code. If you do, you've got Claude Code, which is underpinned by 4.6 Opus. Then you can look at things like Gemini 3.1 Pro for deep thinking and your research. It's really, really good, guys. So deep thinking and research, as well as image generation, website generation, and stuff like that. 3.1 Pro is your go-to. It's Nano Banana underneath that. It's deep thinking underneath that. So that's your go-to for those things. And then what is it? OpenAI's Codex 5.3 Codex is actually really, really good from a coding perspective. If you know exactly what you want, if not, use it as a debugging tool. It's really good at like solving your debug problems. I typically have problems that I can't solve with other models, and like Codex just takes it apart like that. It's like it's really, really good. Even the 5.2 one is also very good. The model before that. So it's just understanding what to use, when to use it, right? Yeah. So get into the habit of understanding which model to leverage and when. Then it gives you a more robust application that you're trying to build for your users, and therefore the gap between what is just a vibe coded application and a production application is that much closer, right? And that's what you want. You want something that will be able to scale, So yeah, that's the parting sort of message from me. Yeah,
Yeah.
just try different models. You've already got access to the IDEs. Yeah, play around with it, guys.
Yeah. So my last thing is to say, if you are trying to build autonomous agents and OpenClaw, because OpenClaw comes at a cost, right? It's slightly more expensive than building with BankerBot and all these other things, right? But it also depends on what you're trying to do, right? So OpenClaw is great for an agent that runs 24/7 and can automate so many things, even on your computer, and yeah, it's a proper assistant, right? So I think that kind of like requires minimal cost. Like you need either to have a hosted service like Ocean Protocol or something like that to be safe, right? So that might require you to pay. I'm not sure if Ocean Protocol requires you to pay upfront, but I think you can use it and then you pay at the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken. But
I
there is a
haven't
bit of
tried.
a minimum cost to building with OpenClaw. But there are
Yeah,
also limitations. So if you want to use something like Emergent.sh or any of these hosted wrappers, um, they are limited. They might not be able to sort of like have the skills or download certain skills because they are running on a hosted web browser. So they are quite limited. But if you set up your own OpenClaw on a separate computer or whatever, then you are able to do more with it. So everything
yeah,
just depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? So you need to look into that. But if you don't want to use OpenClaw or it's a bit too technical and it's difficult, then try use BankerBot, because then it's going to give you, or the Virtuals protocol platform. I think they've got a hosted platform. I haven't used Virtuals, but I think Virtuals is one of the big ones. Virtuals, BankerBot, and OpenClaw. Those are the sort of like three agentic platforms that are very, well established on base right now. Okay. So yeah, you can use Virtuals protocol. You can also use BankerBot, right? Like I've mentioned, I'm using BankerBot. It gives you a level of autonomy, especially if you want your AI agents to trade and to do certain on-chain actions using their wallet. But then I added Gemini to be able to do other things. You can keep adding different models for different actions. So right now, guys, the limitations are very small when it comes to building. You can have a stack that uses different AI agents to do different things in one app, and it will still function, it will still run. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, so just keep that in mind, guys. And yeah, if you want to speak, you want to communicate, somebody asked me how they can talk on this live stream. This one was not for getting our community to speak, but you can come to the one on Thursday, which is the builder office hours at 1 p.m. CAT. You can come there and then we can give you a platform to speak and to share or to ask questions on live, and we help you with your builds. Okay. So register for the Thursday one, office hours, if you want to share stuff or you want to talk or you want to engage or you want the public you want to show what you've been building. Okay. But yeah, otherwise, thank you guys for coming through. Check out batches.base.org for the base batches initiative. And yeah, stay logged in. We'll catch you guys on Thursday. All right. Thanks again, Shabs. And thanks to our community. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Okay,
We'll
bye.
see you on Thursday. Yeah.
Cheers.